Hello everyone. Welcome again in the fourth session of our quiz. In our previous video, that is the session number 3, I have discussed some short answer type questions with you. And in this session, I'm going to discuss some long answer questions with you all. So children, be ready to solve some very interesting long answer type questions. Let us come to our first question. Our first question is, explain frictional force with the help of some example. We have to explain frictional force with the help of some examples. So let's start. The force which always opposes the motion of one body over another body is called frictional force, or just you can call it friction. The frictional force acts between the two surfaces which are in contact with each other. A ball moving on the ground slows down and then stops due to the frictional force between the ball and the ground. The frictional force is also known as force of friction, or just it is known as friction. We will now give some more examples from our everyday life where frictional force is involved. So let's see. If we stop pedaling a running bicycle, what happens? When we stop pedaling, the bicycle gradually slows down, and after covering some distance, it stops. The bicycle moving on the road slows down and finally comes to a stop due to the frictional force between the tires of the bicycle and the road. The frictional force opposes the motion of bicycle and brings it to a stop. Actually, what is happening here, the two surfaces which are in contact, that is the surface of the road and the surface of the tire of the bicycle, the two surfaces are in contact. That is why the bicycle, when we stop pedaling a running bicycle, it gradually slows down, and then after covering some distance, it stops. Let's see one more example. When we stop rowing a boat which is moving in water, this also slows down and then stops. Actually, the boat in water slows down and finally stops due to the frictional force between the boat and water. The frictional force exerted by water opposes the motion of boat and makes it stop. In this case, the two surfaces in contact are the surface of boat. One is the surface of boat and the other one is the surface of water. The frictional force, or the force of friction, always acts on all the moving object, and its direction is always opposite to the direction of motion. And one more very important thing to be noticed is, since the frictional force arises only when the surfaces of two objects are in touch with each other, therefore frictional force is an example of contact force. Frictional force is an example of contact force. So I hope this question is very clear to everyone. Let's move to the next one. Question number 2 is, what is meant by non-contact force? Explain with the help of an example. The answer is a force which can be exerted by an object on another object even from a distance without touching each other is called non-contact force. There is no physical contact between the object which exerts the force and the object on which the force is exerted. The examples of non-contact force are magnetic force, electrostatic force, and gravitational force. Example number 1 is magnet can exert its magnetic force on iron objects even from a distance without touching them. Therefore, magnetic force is a non-contact force. Example number 2 is the electrostatic force can be exerted by a charged object on another object even from a distance when they are not in touch with each other. So, electrostatic force is also an example of non-contact force. And the gravitational force, that is also an example of non-contact force because that can also be exerted even without any physical touching. Question number 3 is explain gravity with the help of an example. The answer is the force with which the earth pulls the object towards it is called the force of gravity or just gravity. Gravity is a natural force of attraction, or you can say that it is a natural force of pull, and we all are pulled to the earth by the force of gravity. For example, when a fruit falls from a tree, it is the force of gravity only which brings the fruit down to the earth. Similarly, when a diver dives into a swimming pool, it is the force of gravity only which brings him down. The force of gravity acts on all the objects, and the force of gravity causes all the objects to fall towards the earth. For example, a leaf falls down from the tree due to gravity only. The rain falls down to earth due to the force of gravity. When we open a tap, the water begins to flow down towards the ground due to the force of gravity. And the water in the rivers also, that also flows downward because of the force of gravity. Let us move to the next question. Question number 4 is when a rubber balloon is rubbed with a piece of synthetic cloth, it sticks to the wall. Explain. Okay, this is an example of electrostatic force. Let's see what's written in the answer. When an inflated rubber balloon is rubbed with a piece of synthetic cloth and then it is pressed against the wall of brick, the balloon stick to the wall. It is the electrostatic force which is responsible for the attraction between the balloon and the wall. When the balloon is rubbed with a piece of synthetic cloth, the balloon gets electrostatically charged and hence gets electrically charged, and electrically charged balloon attracts the uncharged wall and sticks to it. I hope you enjoyed this quiz session. Thank you very much.